The kid's scream was still echoing through the 911 playback when the rookie asked the question no cop in Briar Falls ever wants to hear. Why does everyone tense up when Willow Ash Street comes over the radio? I didn't answer him. Not right away. I was listening to the recording again, the last 30 seconds before the line went dead. A boy's voice, breathless, terrified, somewhere between crying and hyperventilating. Then a man's voice, low and too cheerful, humming something off-key, the kind of tune a puppeteer might whistle while choosing which strings to pull. Then a pop, like air being sucked out of a room, and silence. Dispatch had already confirmed the address twice, their voice shaking. Willow Ash Street. Dead end. No streetlights working for years. The place we didn't patrol unless we absolutely had to. "Briggs," the rookie pressed. Should I grab the rifles?" "It's not that kind of street," I said, sliding into the driver's seat of the cruiser. "Just get in." Daniel Cole, 23, 6 days out of the academy, still had that bright-eyed belief that a badge meant something, that the job was about drunks, break-ins, maybe a domestic or two. He didn't know yet. There are things in this town older than our laws, things that live quiet lives as long as no one bothers them. And Willow Ash Street was where they lived. As we drove through the sleeping town, Daniel kept sneaking glances at me. "So, what exactly lives there?" "You'll see," I muttered. The closer we got, the stranger the air felt, like humidity without the heat, a warm breath on the neck even though my window was closed. The cruiser radio crackled with faint static, whispering just soft enough to make you think you imagined it. We turned onto Willow Ash. The street was wrong in that subtle, nauseating way you can't put into words. The houses lined up straight but didn't feel straight. The porches were dark, but something moved behind the windows, slow and deliberate, like people who knew they were being watched. Old mail lay scattered across lawns that never grew, as if the grass itself was too tired to bother. Street number signs shimmered, the paint shifting as if trying to remember what digits they were supposed to be. Daniel noticed it immediately. "Is the perspective off?" "Don't look too long at anything here," I warned. He didn't listen. They never do. His eyes widened at the silhouette on the porch of house number 7. Tall, thin, head craned too far to the side as if trying to hear the earth. It waved at our cruiser with an elbow that bent in the wrong direction. "Jesus, is that a—" "Resident," I said. They stay quiet, usually. I killed the headlights, letting the cruiser idle in darkness. The 911 location pinged at the dead end where the pavement cracked apart like old bone. Beyond it, a thin line of woods breathed fog across the asphalt. We stepped out. The night was too silent. Even the insects refused to sing here. Daniel swept his flashlight across the ground, the beam bending distortively at the edges, as if the darkness was thicker here. Hungry. "There," he whispered. A small sneaker lay in the ditch, mud-caked, laces torn. A child's. A boy's. Pressure built behind my forehead. I'd seen too many shoes like that in my career, but never one on this street. Then we heard it. A soft humming. Cheerful, off-key. The same tune from the 911 call. It came from behind us, near the hedges by house number 9. I gripped Daniel's shoulder before he could turn. "Don't look at it directly," I warned. But he already had. And in the flashlight beam stood a figure unfolding from the shadows, too tall, too thin, its smile stretching wider than its face. Its shadow did not match its body. It rippled, then slithered along the hedge like a separate creature trying to decide which shape it preferred. Daniel choked on his breath. "Sergeant? What is that?" I swallowed hard. "That, rookie, is why we don't patrol Willow Ash Street." Daniel didn't move. Couldn't. His flashlight trembled in his grip, the beam jittering across the hedges until it landed full on the thing's face. Its smile deepened, not by pulling its lips back, but by adding more teeth, rows unfolding like a fan. I yanked the rookie's wrist down, forcing the light toward the ground. "Don't illuminate it. They like attention." They? Daniel stammered. "What the hell is they?" We backed slowly toward the cruiser, each step measured, never turning our backs, never blinking longer than a second. The figure didn't follow. It just watched, its head tilted so far sideways it nearly rested on its shoulder. "They're residents," I said quietly. "That's what we call them. They live here. Have for longer than Briar Falls has existed. Most of them try to pass as human, some try harder than others. And we just let them? We don't police what we can't control." He stared at me, breathing fast, disbelief written all over him. "You're telling me the department knows monsters live on this street, and everyone's fine with that?" "Not fine. We manage it." I flicked my eyes toward house number 7, where the silhouette we'd seen earlier still stood perfectly still, watching. They stay out of town, keep their activities limited, and in return, we stay off their lawns. Daniel swallowed hard, but a kid's missing, which means someone broke the rules, and when they break the rules, we respond. Fog drifted around our ankles, cold and strangely fragrant, something floral, like lilies left too long in stagnant water. It thickened, pouring from the direction of the street's dead end. Daniel swept his light through it, but the beam bent again, refracting, scattering. He cursed. "Why does the light do that?" "This place repels clarity," I said. "It likes to stay misunderstood." We reached the corner of house number 11, its siding warped as though melted under heat. Something inside was breathing, slow, heavy, rattling, as if asleep. I placed a hand on Daniel's arm. "Stay close. Don't engage with anyone unless I say some. And if someone offers you something, anything, you refuse." Offers, gifts, trades, bargains. They like bargains. His eyes darted nervously across the street. "How many of them live here?" "Enough that the town pretends the census still counts 13 houses instead of 19. Daniel didn't like that answer. We pressed deeper between the houses. Tree branches overhead tangled thickly, intertwining like fingers locking together. A toy flashlight lay in the middle of the sidewalk, the same one the boy's mother described. I crouched and lifted it gently. The bulb was warm, very warm. "He was here recently," I murmured. A voice drifted from the porch of house number 10, dry, wavering, and impossibly old. "He follows laughter, you know. Always has. But he only knows how to take." Daniel's breath hitched. A woman sat in a rocking chair that hadn't rocked once, even in the breeze. Her hair hung in long white strands that moved independently of the wind. Her pupils were nearly invisible behind milky cataracts, yet she faced us unerringly. She smiled with cracked lips. "You're looking for the little one, aren't you?" I nodded once. "We are." "Then you should move quickly. His joy is fading." Daniel stepped forward. "Where is he? Who took him?" Her head twitched sharply toward him, nostrils flaring as though smelling something on him. "You're new." "Answer me," he said, hand drifting toward his holster. Her smile widened, revealing small teeth filed to points. You're brave or stupid. I've never been good at telling the two apart. Daniel stiffened. Her gaze never left him. Sergeant, he whispered, why's she staring like that? Because you're asking questions, the old woman answered. And on this street, questions are invitations. A soft clicking sound began behind us. Slow, rhythmic, almost curious. I turned first. Something was crawling on the underside of the porch roof of house number 9, a man-shaped figure moving like a spider, limbs folding backwards and sideways, head upside down, eyes glowing faintly like dying embers. It was watching Daniel, not me. Daniel. Eyes down, I hissed. Don't acknowledge it. Daniel tried. God, he tried, but terror has a way of dragging the eyes where they shouldn't go. The creature skittered a few inches closer, limbs contorting. We need to keep moving, I said, pulling him along. The old woman's voice followed us, drifting through the fog. Be careful with the smiling man. He's always hungry when he hears fear. The hairs on my arms rose. Daniel shook his head. Smiling man? That's the one we saw? No, I said. That was his echo. We reached the cracked walkway of house number 12, the one locals claim doesn't exist despite standing, plain as day. A single object sat neatly on the top step. The missing boy's other shoe. And the door, swollen and warped, was cracked open just an inch, just wide enough for a child to slip through. House number 12 shouldn't have been there. Every record in Briar Falls listed the street's properties, 1 through 11, then a vacant lot, then 13. 12 was never mentioned, not once. But there it stood anyway, exactly where my memory refused to put it. The door was cracked open just enough for a 9-year-old to disappear through. Daniel stared at the gap. Sergeant, is the house breathing? It was, subtly, inward and outward, like the walls expanded a fraction with each inhale and exhale. Paint bubbled, then smoothed, dust lifted, then settled. The warped boards creaked in a slow, steady rhythm. Alive. I pushed the door wider with my boot. Stay behind me, no matter what. The smell hit us immediately. Not rot, not decay. Something older, like flowers that had died 3 times but refused to stay buried. Sweet, thick, suffocating. Inside, the temperature dropped so sharply my breath fogged. Daniel's flashlight flickered violently the moment he crossed the threshold. Briggs, my light's glitching. It does that here. Keep it pointed forward. The interior was worse than I remembered. Objects were arranged like someone had copied a home from memory, but got half the details wrong. A sofa bolted to the ceiling, a carpeted wall, a grandfather clock with its pendulum ticking upward, defying gravity. The house wasn't built for humans. It was built as an interpretation. Something giggled in the distance. Not a child. Not exactly. The pitch was off. Higher in the middle, lower at the end, like a laugh cut apart and stitched back together wrong. Daniel stiffened. That's him. That's the missing kid. It has to be. No, I said. That's something else. We advanced slowly. Every footstep echoed twice, once beneath us, once somewhere else in the structure. The house twisted space subtly. Corners were sharper, hallways longer, shadows thicker than they should be. At the end of the hall, a narrow stairwell led downward into blackness. The giggling came again. Closer. I crouched and examined the 5th step exactly where I expected it. A small sneaker heel print pressed into the dust. The boy had gone down willingly, or had been coaxed. Daniel shined his light into the dark. Why a basement? These things don't need basements. They like what's below ground, I said. What's between spaces? Basements are thresholds. Daniel swallowed. Thresholds to what? I didn't answer. He wasn't ready. We descended. The air thickened. Each step moaned under our weight like the house disliked us moving deeper into its body. My flashlight beam shortened until it barely reached more than a few feet ahead. Daniel's flickered uselessly. Something whispered faintly behind us. We turned. Nothing there. But the air shifted, as if something had just brushed past our backs unseen. At the bottom, the basement opened into a wide, dim chamber full of toys. Hundreds of them. Old, new, broken, pristine, piled in messy drifts like offerings. Stuffed animals with ripped seams, rattles filled with something that sloshed, dolls whose eyes tracked us sluggishly. Daniel whispered, "What the hell is this?" "A lure pile," I murmured. They hoard things children touch often, for scent, memory, pattern. Only then did we see the boy. He stood near the far wall, silent, eyes wide. His hands hung at his sides. He wasn't bound. He wasn't hurt. But his gaze wasn't focused on us. It was focused through us, like he was seeing two worlds at once. "Buddy," Daniel said softly, "we're here to take you home." The boy didn't blink. Behind him, the shadows shifted. I raised my gun instinctively. "Daniel, step back, now." Something peeled itself from the wall, slowly, fluidly. Black at first, then taking shape, stretching like tar, learning how bones work. A face emerged, wide, too wide. A grin spread, long, too long. Eyes opened, 3 at first, then sliding into 2 as if deciding what humans preferred. Daniel whispered, "Sergeant, is that the smiling man?" I felt my throat tighten. No. The creature clicked its jaw sideways like a camera shutter snapping back into place. "This is the smiling man's first shape." It stepped forward. The boy didn't move. The creature reached for him with fingers like unraveling strings. Daniel raised his flashlight on instinct, and for a half second, half a blessed, miraculous second, the creature reeled back, face wrinkling into a distorted snarl. "Light hurts it," Daniel breathed. "It annoys it," I corrected. "But we'll take what we can get." He panned the light again. But the beam bent, literally bent, curving around the creature as though it refused to be illuminated. Then the creature mimicked Daniel's breath. Exactly. Every inhale, every exhale. Perfectly. It leaned close to the boy and whispered a single word in a voice painfully similar to his mother's. "Stay." The boy's pupils expanded unnaturally, swallowing the color of his eyes. Daniel took a step forward, furious. "Hey, let him go!" The creature's head snapped toward him. The grin widened. And in that moment, every toy in the room turned its head toward Daniel. Every doll, every stuffed bear, every plastic soldier, like tiny witnesses waiting to see what he'd do next. Every toy in the room stared at Daniel as if the house itself was holding its breath. The creature, its first shape, stilled completely. The grin froze, too wide to belong to anything with bones. Its eyes, mismatched and wet, didn't blink, didn't even shimmer. They simply switched focus to Daniel like a camera adjusting lenses. "Don't move," I whispered. "Don't challenge it." But Daniel was already breathing fast, heart pounding loud enough you could almost see the creature tilting its head to listen. "It's holding a kid hostage," he hissed. "We can't just—" The creature jerked, sudden as a snapped tendon. Daniel flinched. That was enough. In an instant, the smiling man slipped from its first shape into its second, not by transforming, but by rearranging itself, like limbs changing roles. Arms became legs, a spine folded neatly in half. Its face split vertically, then resealed, grin wider than before. This was the real thing, or closer to it. The boy's mouth opened in a silent scream. "Light!" I barked. Daniel flicked the flashlight upward, beam shaking wildly. The light warped again, bending in a wide arc, but the creature shrank back just an inch, just enough for me to slide between it and the kid. I grabbed the boy's wrist. "We're going home." The smiling man responded by stretching, literally stretching, its torso expanding like warm taffy, rising to brush the basement ceiling. Fingers elongated, curling down with soft, wet pops. Daniel froze, horror painted. "Sergeant, how do we fight this thing?" "We don't." I pulled the boy behind me. "We negotiate." The creature cocked its head at that, the grin flickering with interest. I lifted my free hand slowly, palm out, showing I wasn't drawing my weapon. Drawing the gun was useless anyway. It didn't understand bullets, didn't understand pain the way we define it. But it understood gestures. I made the sign, 3 taps on the chest, 2 taps on the throat, 1 on the forehead. The traditional warning. An old, silent police order for this street. A truce request. The smiling man's grin tightened, sharpening like creases in paper. Daniel whispered, "What does that mean?" "It means it knows it broke the rules," I murmured. The creature lowered itself until its face hovered inches from mine. Hot, humid breath reeking of wilted flowers washed over my skin. It studied me like a reflection in a cracked mirror. Then it clicked. Once. Soft, deliberate. It didn't want to return to its agreement. It wanted the child. The room warped subtly. Toys leaned in as though gravity shifted. Shadows stretched toward us like hands reaching. "Briggs," Daniel whispered. "It's not backing down." "Because it's tasting us," I said. "Seeing what fear we carry. Seeing what it can keep." Then it happened. The basement lights, dim as they were, sputtered and died. Daniel's flashlight flared bright one last time, then burst with a sharp pop. Darkness swallowed everything. The smiling man moved. I felt it before I saw it, a vibration, a displacement of air, like the world inhaling. "Daniel, new light, now!" I snapped. He fumbled with his body cam. "It's not turning on. Give it to me!" He handed it over, fingers shaking so badly he nearly dropped it. I slammed the toggle. A small, narrow beam pierced the dark. For a second, the smiling man froze mid-lunge, one limb twisted above its head, the other bent around its torso like a folded coat hanger. It hissed, not animalistic, but almost disappointed. I held the beam steady. "Back. Now!" The creature recoiled a step, but only a step. It shifted, edges blurring as if trying to decide whether it could outrun the light. Then it spoke. Not through a mouth, through the walls. A chorus of voices, childlike, elderly, familiar, foreign, layered over one another. "Trade. Trade. Trade." The boy whimpered. Daniel's voice cracked. "What does it want?" I steadied my breathing. "It's offering a deal." "Deal? With what?" "With me." The beam trembled in my hand as the creature leaned in again, grin reaching nearly ear to ear. The chorus thickened. "Give 1, take 1." Daniel grabbed my arm. "Sergeant, don't listen to it." I ignored him. "No trades tonight. You broke the rules. The street will handle you." The grin twitched, and something outside the house groaned, deep, resonant, like a massive door opening for the first time in years. Daniel looked toward the stairs. What was that? Backup, I said, but not our backup. The residents of Willow Ash Street were waking up. The smiling man twisted sharply as if sensing them. A hiss escaped from its too wide grin. It lurched backward, limbs twisting in agitation. The walls shuddered. The floors vibrated. Upstairs, footsteps, too many footsteps, creaked and scuttled and padded across the ceiling. Daniel whispered, "They're coming here? All of them?" "Not for us," I said. "For him." The creature screeched silently, mouth opening wider than human anatomy allowed, and house number 12 began to fold inward. Literally fold. Walls bending, stairs warping, ceiling lowering, as though the structure itself was collapsing back into whatever dimension it crawled out from. "Move!" I shouted, grabbing the boy and pushing Daniel toward the stairwell. The smiling man lunged after us, its body unraveling like cloth in a hurricane. But something in the collapsing walls grabbed it, held it, pulled it backward, grins smearing into a streak of white as it fought. Daniel looked back once, just once, and froze in horror. Because dozens of silhouettes, human-shaped but not human, pressed against the walls, emerging from them like clay molding into faces. Residents. Watching. Containing. Enforcing. We reached the stairs as the smiling man howled through 100 borrowed voices. And the last thing I saw before the darkness crushed inward was the house swallowing him like a lung exhaling its final breath. The night air hit us like a slap, cold, sharp, real. After the suffocating humidity of house number 12, the outside world felt almost too bright, too normal. Daniel stumbled up the last step and collapsed to his knees in the yard, clutching the boy against his chest. Behind us, house number 12 convulsed like it was struggling to decide whether it still wanted to exist. The walls bent inward, wood groaned, windows collapsed into themselves with soft, wet pops, more organic than structural. Then, as quietly as a dying breath, the entire structure folded down into the earth, leaving nothing but an uneven patch of dead grass and a circle of fog that refused to blow away. The boy whimpered. Daniel held him tighter. "Sergeant," Daniel whispered, "what did we just see?" I watched the empty patch of ground where the house had been. The street was still now, eerily so. Every porch dark, every window empty. But we weren't alone. Shapes leaned against porch rails, stood on rooftops, pressed their faces to curtains. The residents of Willow Ash Street watched us with still, patient intensity. Not threatening, not welcoming, just observing. "They enforced their own rules," I said. "They always do." Daniel swallowed hard. Why let them stay at all? Why didn't the town run them out decades ago?" "Because you don't run out things older than you," I said. "Because it's better to live alongside them than to provoke them." He shook his head. "That's insane. This whole street, this whole arrangement is insane." "It's small-town policing," I said. "The kind they don't teach in the academy." The boy stirred in his arms. "You told me a joke," he murmured. Daniel flinched. "A joke? The smiling man?" I crouched in front of the kid. "Do you remember it?" The boy looked at me with eyes that still shimmered with something not fully gone, something borrowed. He said, "Knock, knock." My chest tightened. "And then what?" The boy blinked slowly, said I didn't need to say the next part. He said he already knew. Daniel looked at me, confused. What does that mean? Why would... A shape stepped onto the nearest porch, house number 7. The tall, elbow-bending resident we'd seen earlier. It tilted its head at us, then tapped its chest 3 times, throat twice, forehead once. The truce gesture. But tonight, instead of returning it, I turned the boy away and carried him toward the cruiser. Daniel stood frozen, staring at the residents as they watched us silently retreat. Sergeant, what's stopping them from doing this again, from taking another kid? I paused at the cruiser door. Fear of the others. What others? I gestured vaguely toward the street. They police themselves. They keep their own predators in check. The smiling man broke the boundary. The street handled it. Daniel shook his head. That thing could have taken me. It wanted to. That's why the street punished it, I said. You're a cop. You had authority here, whether you realized it or not. Authority? He said, voice rising. On a street full of monsters? Authority makes you valuable, I said quietly. And things of value don't get taken lightly. He looked at the boy again and shivered. We drove the child home. His mother sobbed and clutched him like she'd never let go. She asked what happened, but I told her nothing she'd remember mattered. The boy wouldn't remember the creature's shape. He'd remember laughter, a song, maybe a smile too wide. But nothing else. As we pulled away from the house, Daniel stared out the window like he expected something to follow us. What do we do now? He asked. Keep pretending that street doesn't exist? We keep balance, I said. We enforce the boundary. We trust they do the same. And if they don't? He whispered. The radio crackled, just once. Then dispatch came through, voice trembling. Unit 12, do you copy? I lifted the mic. Go ahead. We just received another missing child call. Daniel's face drained. From where? I asked. Silence. Then, Willow Ash Street. Daniel looked at the clock on the dashboard. 2:14 a.m. Dispatch continued, voice cracking. Call time-stamped 2:17 a.m. 3 minutes from now. The radio hissed softly like someone humming off-key far in the background. I turned the cruiser toward Willow Ash. We're not done tonight, I said. And as the headlights cut across the empty road leading back to Monster Street, Daniel whispered the words I hadn't wanted him to learn on his first week. Sergeant, I don't think the smiling man was the only one hungry. If you're still here, if you made it all the way through this one, you already know things in Briar Falls aren't done with us. And neither is Willow Ash Street. Monsters don't disappear. They wait. They listen. And sometimes they smile. If you want to hear what happens next, if you want more stories about the places we're not supposed to patrol, the streets nobody puts on a map, and the creatures that live between our laws, then do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me what part of tonight's story stuck with you the most. Your support keeps these stories alive, and trust me, there are plenty more waiting in the dark. Until next time, stay out of the fog, keep your lights steady, and whatever you do, don't answer a knock on Willow Ash Street.